All right. So there are a few things that I want to talk about. So lately, I've been going to the events as I realized that I really have no social life. So it would be better for my mental health and for my future overall to go to events, meet new people, and which ended up being a really good decision. So the first event I went to, I met a guy named Satyajit, who is a software developer. He's also working at a startup which is backed by YC. So it was cool meeting him. And he told me that he's hosting another event for it's more of a casual event than a startup or founders event where they can where people can present their career in a funny way. So it's kind of like a stand up but a little bit more towards careers and like founders and stuff. And then I met some of his friend, like one guy who's like nerdy. He uses Linux and he's also into hardware, which was like really nice meeting him. And also he connected with a guy who is into space tech. So he's starting out with the software side of things in space. So he's building cool projects around tracking the satellites in the Earth orbit, and he's also working with like NASA's dataset to visualize the exoplanets data. And I want to work on similar things as well. So it gave me a lot of ideas on what I can work on. So before these events, I was mainly just focusing on my product Cadastre. I was slowly working on that, and it was starting to become very draining. I did had in the back of my mind that I wanna get into mechatronics, but I wasn't really like doing anything. But meeting these new people has really given me some inspiration on what I can do, because there are many interesting things that I can be doing right now other than just working on Cadastre. Surely I can prioritize working on Cadastre, but on the software side of things, I can also work on what Shantanu is working on, which is like visualizing NASA dataset, maybe using AI and machine learning to analyze archived NASA datasets, also creating visualizations of that. Like that would be a pretty cool project to work on, especially on the software side of things, other than just working on a product which the sole purpose is to generate cash flow. So I would be working in software, but on the things that I'm interested in. And on the hardware side of things, I met a guy named Sapan or something like that, like who's nerdy and who's into hardware. I was kind of like putting it off. I was thinking that I'll do it once I start generating some cash flow. But I think I can focus more on that once I start generating cash flow. But I can do something right now. I can just buy a Arduino kit, which is pretty cheap, and I can just do some light tinkering rather than going all in on that. Because that way I can keep my interest alive, and I can also like do things that I wanna do rather than putting it off until later. So these are the things I've been thinking about. And also on the software side of things, like one of the resistance point is like I obviously don't have a software background, so I use a lot of AI agents to do the software side of work, and I do have Claude Pro, but I mainly use it for Cadastre, and I'm pretty strict on the limits. I'm pretty limited on the usage limits. So what I'm thinking is I can either buy Codex, which is more generous on the limits, which where I can use Codex for my own personal projects that I'm interested in, or I can also use open models. Like the core difference that I learned today was open models are good when you know what you're doing. Because if you're already a software developer, you know what you need and you can be very explicit in your prompt. So even if the model is not smart, it can still implement what you want. But the frontier models and closed source models can be helpful where you don't know what you are doing, because these models are pretty smart enough to make the architectural decision, even though they might not be perfect, but they are still good enough. So I can either purchase Codex, or I can just use open source until I don't purchase Codex. It would be better than like doing nothing and overthinking whether I should buy Codex or not. So I'll start using. I'm already like using open source models via command code, but I'll start using them even more, and eventually I'll just buy Codex, as Anthropic is kind of would be like reducing their usage limits even more, as they have already like subsidized their plans a lot, so they might not do that in the future, especially in July. So yeah, these are the things that have been on my mind lately. So yeah, I just wanted to note it down.